morning. Welcome to RV Fishing Chat. And another lovely cloudy day. I just wish it would rain. It's been so long since we've had a good rain that I'm getting a little worried. So, yeah, so I got a little distraction ahead of me called State Trooper. So I can decide whether I want to pass him or not, because he's going under the speed limit. Isn't that lovely? Anywho, I will tell you my story and then I'll pass him. So yeah, actually what I was thinking about is today I'd like to tell you a fish story. So something that one of the first fishing trips that we ever took was out to South Llano River State Park, and we stayed in the park, and then the next day, and let me back up a little bit. So this was in November. We took off for Thanksgiving, took off the whole week, and we had our I don't know if it might have been Thanksgiving Day, if I'm trying to remember correctly. It was somewhere around really nice temperature, everything. It was warm that year, so we decided to risk it and go. And we actually went to we went to the South Llano River State Park, which is south of Junction, and then we I don't know, everybody's slowing down for some reason. It's really cool. But no, we so the day that we went, we had called and talked to Curtis Thomas up the river, who portage people, and we talked to him, and he said, yeah, I'll do it, and I think he ended up charging us $10 instead of the normal, and so we were happy, and it basically allowed us to, we took our own kayak, but then we rented one from him, and I think for the price of the rental and everything, he normally charged us a lot more, would have charged a lot more. I think basically we got the portage for free. So we decided to do this, and oh dear, 4 deer right on the side of the road. Nice. We decided to do this. We went ahead and did it, but he told us that it was about 6 miles, and I had no idea how long 6 miles took to go on a river. And so I said, I asked him, well, how long will that take? And he said, oh, it'll be about 3.5 hours paddling. Like, okay, I didn't know what he meant by that, which was you better be paddling the whole time. So if you aren't paddling, you'll go a lot slower. He showed us the halfway point. I'm like, okay, there was this bluff partway down. I'm like, all right, I think we got this, we can do this, surely we can do this. We've been kayaking and going places and doing all kinds of stuff, but we hadn't really gone on any rivers per se, especially not the Llano. And so we decided to go ahead and do it. And we got on the river, had a couple of little things that happened. Dumped a sweater in the water that somebody was going to wear, because it was a little chilly. It wasn't terrible, but it was a little chilly. And so yeah, we decided to, we went on down the river, and everything was fine. And as the day progressed, we started getting a little concerned that we had, we weren't sure if we'd made it to the bluff or not, the halfway point. And 2 o'clock came. I mean, we left about 11 in the morning, which is kind of stupid. And we were under the impression that it was going to be fine. And I mean, Mr. Thomas had not really, he didn't intentionally tell us the wrong thing, but he didn't realize that we didn't understand his terminology. And so we thought it was going to be a quicker ride. So we're paddling along, and like Sarah says, well, that must be the bluff. And I'm like, no, that doesn't look like the bluff he pointed out. It really just doesn't look like it. And so we kept going. And obviously, what are you going to do? But I was like, I think we better hurry up. So we started hurrying up pretty quick. We came, about an hour and a half later, we came to the bluff. It was at actually I think it was 4:30, 4 o'clock to 4:30, somewhere in there. We saw the bluff, and that was the halfway point. And it's November. Sun goes down at 6 o'clock, between 5:30 and 6. It's dark by 6:15, if that. I mean, it might have even been dark by 6. And if I remember correctly, it got dark pretty quick, especially down those canyons. And we were still in the water, and it took us another. Well, then we slowed down because we couldn't go down the rapids because you couldn't see. Oh, by the way, did I forget to tell you? We only had one flashlight. So we come tootling in at 7:30 in the evening. After that, it was stinking late, and it might have been later than that. And I finally had gotten, when I tried to call them, we didn't have any cell signal. So when I finally got a hold of them, or actually I think I left a message, and I finally was able to do it, leave a message, and I think I'm parking the back today. I'm in my little beastie weastie. It's just a lot harder to park this than a truck. I ain't got the mirrors for it. But yeah, so we oh yeah, plenty of room. So yeah, we got we got pulled in. We got close to him, and we didn't know it. We didn't know where we were. And so we plug that back in, it'll nag me. So we decided to actually, we saw some people up on the bank. They had just pulled in with their car. It was late, probably coming home from some event, and we hollered and they came to the front, and we said, hey, how far is it to Curtis Thomas? And they're like, oh, it's just right around the bend. Are there any more rapids? No, you don't have to go more rapids. No, you're good. Like, oh, my arms were locked up. I mean, I could hardly paddle. I was having to use my body like this. I could hardly move. I mean, this was the first time we'd ever been down a river. This is the first time we'd paddled more than 2 miles. And, yeah, we were out of our minds. Had no idea what we were doing. It's driving us crazy being on the water like that. And yeah, just kind of sort of was a little more than what we intended to do. And I don't recommend coming home on a Texas river. I don't recommend being on a Texas river after dark, especially when we got to one of these rapids where it was just a chute, and you couldn't see. It was a long chute. It was probably 100 feet long. And it would probably been great to go down during the day. But we couldn't see. And I had already gotten caught on one of these chutes on the way down. And we caught fish all along the way. I should have said that. We were catching fish, so we got, distracted But first time I'd ever taken my kayak down a river, I had no idea what 14 feet really meant. I kept getting caught between things sideways. Never dumped, but I was that close. So yeah, it was a really rough trip in the first place. And then it got dark and we couldn't go down the rapids, and we had to focus on trying to go over the sandbars and things like that. Well, then we got to one where the brush was probably 8-9 feet tall and big, thick, brush that you could hardly go through. And we couldn't get through the rapids because it was just enough too deep to where you didn't want to walk in it, because you in the dark, especially, because you couldn't tell whether you'd step on something or fall over the edge of something and swim. And it was already into the low to mid 60s by this point. So we were freezing our butts off being in the water all the time. Every time we had to get out, we had to get in the water. Not cool. Well, it was cool. So yeah, by the time we got down to the bottom of this nastiness, and then, I guess I forgot to tell you, we got to this brush wall, and I just had to go through it. I said, Sarah was like, well, let's just go down the rapids. I'm like, I can't see down the rapids. We could end up getting clotheslined. We'd already had trees that hung out, and we couldn't see them till the last minute in the daylight. So yeah, I wasn't about to do it in the dark, and I'm like, no. So I was like, all right, I'm going to do this. And I just took my kayak. I wasn't as loaded heavy then as I am now, but it was still way over 100 pounds, 110, 120 pounds of stuff. And, grabbed that thing, and I was the only one who had a light because I was having to go in the front, and I just charged into those bushes. Just, I'm going through. Pulled my kayak up over him, and Sarah was like, don't hurt yourself. And I'm like, well, what am I supposed to do? And I just kept going, and she came on behind me. Like, oh my goodness. Talk about had a feeling like we were going to die on a river somewhere. And I was worried because Sarah gets colder than I do. And I was like, I don't want her getting hypothermia out here. This is not cool. So we finally made it. But yeah, when we got there, he was there. He got my message, and he was like, oh man, yeah. And a lot of people do this. It's no surprise. I'm like, well, you could have told us that it would take longer. Dude, he's a cool guy, but man, that was rough. And then on top of that, it was, he tells us, yeah, I had a couple of guys come and do that once, and they fished, and they got at the halfway point at dark. He said they didn't come in till about 1 o'clock in the morning. I was like, wait, what? He says, that happens pretty regular. Like, no, man, I would just bunk down on the side of the bank and get dried off, make a fire, whatever, I gotta go. So anyway, that's my story for my big first river fishing adventure. And one of these days we got to go down that river again. We haven't done it since. Not because we were afraid. We've been on the river all over the place, but we found out we could go without having to be portaged and that kind of stuff. So that's why it's still our favorite river. Oh my goodness, it's a fantastic river. But we got to go and get portaged sometime and actually do the whole 6-mile trip. We're a lot better at it now. So anyway, that's it. Safe travels and tight lines, folks. Don't forget to like and subscribe.